Welcome to episode 423 of the AM/PM podcast. My guest this week is Miss Carrie Miller from Helium 10. We talk about her journey into this e-commerce ecosystem and what she thinks about where it's going, where the opportunities are right now with Walmart and TikTok and some of the cool new features on Helium 10, as well as a whole bunch of other really fascinating stuff. So I think you're going to really enjoy this with Carrie. And happy Thanksgiving, everybody that's listening to this today on Thanksgiving, or maybe you're traveling over this weekend and listening to this while you're on a plane or driving. Hope you have a great holiday weekend. And if you're selling, hope you have a killer Black Friday and Cyber Monday. Enjoy this episode with Carrie, and talk to you soon.
Welcome to the AM/PM podcast. Welcome to the AM/PM podcast, where we explore opportunities in e-commerce.
We dream big and we discover what's working right now.
Plus, this is the podcast where money never sleeps, working around the clock in the AM and the PM.
Are you ready for today's episode?
I said, are you ready? Let's do this. Here's your host, Kevin King.
Kevin King.
Miss Carrie Miller, how are you doing? Finally, we get you here on the AM/PM podcast. It's about damn time, isn't it?
Yeah, I would say so. I was wondering how long it would take. Thanks for having me.
The first one when I took this podcast over 2.5 years ago now. So this is Thanksgiving week.
Amazing.
So this is coming out on November 28th. So happy Thanksgiving to everybody, because today's Thanksgiving if you're listening to this on Thanksgiving. Or happy Black Friday and Cyber Monday as well if you're listening to this over the weekend while you're traveling on an airplane. But I took this over. This is the podcast that actually got me my start in this business. I would not be doing a Helium 10 Freedom Ticket or Helium 10 Elite or this podcast if it hadn't been for this podcast. Because when Manny Coates started Helium 10 with Guillermo Puyol back in late 2015, Manny was a seller selling diffusers and socks that said, "If you can see this, quit whining," or something like that. On the bottom
Or
of
bring me a
socks.
beer or something like that, right?
Yeah, something like that. And he started the podcast to document his journey, and then he was developing some tools on the side to just help him with his, because he had a background in software, to help him in his business. He's like, what if I just put these out there? What if I put my tools out there? And I remember him calling me, and like, Kevin, and I actually, before this, I was stepping ahead of myself. He started with a podcast. He had the AM, it's called the FBA High Rollers Group. I think it's still around. I don't know if he had that group, and it was a pretty active group. And I was posting in there, and he saw me post and said, "Hey, you should come on the podcast." This was like March of 2016. And I was like, no, I'm just a seller. And he's like, "No, dude, just come on the podcast." So I went on, and you know me, sometimes at Helium 10, they got to censor me. They're like, have babysitters like, "Kevin, you can't say that," or "We got to mark this down. Make sure we edit that part out because he said something he shouldn't say." But I just said it like it is, and it just resonated, and it just took off from there. And then 2.5 years ago, it came full circle, and I took over the podcast, and I had Manny on as the first guest.
So good.
On that podcast. So I'm happy to have you on as well.
Thank you. Yeah, it's funny because I actually was listening to Manny back in the day too. And I started using Helium 10 probably 2016, it was 2017. It was whenever the keyword tools came out.
So you were working at Jungle Scout and using Helium 10.
Yeah, I wasn't working at Jungle Scout yet at that point. I actually learned how to sell on Amazon on YouTube with in the Jungle Scouts $1 million case studies. And so I was like dog sitting. I had these terrible sales jobs, and I was just like, I worked for Clear Channel, and there were just all these kind of limitations they put on me. And I was just like, I got to do something else. So I was dog sitting at this house that had a theater, and I just was over and over watching all this content and just writing notes, and learned how to help my dad, who took over basically a skateboard brand that was failing and was selling on Amazon only like $200 a month. And I was like, I can figure this out. So I just learned how to sell on Amazon, and went from there.
So was your dad an entrepreneur when you were growing up?
Yes. He actually started a credit card processing company in the 80s when it was like just switching over from the little thing.
Yeah, I used to have one of those with a little metal plate, and you had to turn those into the bank as a check.
Yep.
And wait 7 days for it to hit your account.
Yeah. So he started a company that did the credit card processing when they turned to like electronic terminals. And
that was a big business.
Yeah.
Big
and
business.
he had an ATM company as well. That he sold both of those in the early 2000s. So yeah, he basically built a nationwide company
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, he built a sales force from the ground up. Just he was an engineer before, and he worked for somebody else, and he was like, I can't work for anyone else because he's very very strategic, very smart. He knows how things work best, just putting systems together. And he just was like, I can't work for other people, and so he went out on his own. And it's funny because he actually, the way he found his business partners was through the newspaper. They're like, we have an idea. And on these, I think it was like classified ads or something. We're looking for a business partner type thing
Oh, really? One
in the
is one of those.
newspaper. Yeah. In Tampa, Florida. So that's where we were living. So
This
yeah,
this was for the skateboarding thing, or this is for
no, this is
the
for the
credit card processing?
credit card processing back
Okay.
in the 80s. That's how it was kind of like, there wasn't really internet stuff going on. So people
Yeah,
put
there's
stuff in
you
the
place
newspaper.
classified ads. I actually ran some of those. I'm old enough to have run some of those, like looking for investors for my calendar business or something
Oh
like that.
yeah. Yeah,
I
exactly.
actually $100,000 or so. Call me at this number. Yeah, I know exactly what those type of things. Yeah, I know exactly about that. That's so funny. So once he sold in the early 2000s, you said, how did he get into the skateboarding stuff?
It's basically our neighbor and friend who his son actually started the skateboard company in like 2007. And his dad invested, a few $1 million into it. And the
Oh,
son kind
wow.
of squandered it. And they did a lot of parties and a lot of like red carpet, like skater event type things. And they just squandered away the money. I mean, and so basically in 2015, he asked my dad if he would help him kind of dig it out of the ditch. And then I'm talking, they had these, his son and this other guy had taken a $200,000 deposit for an order that was coming from overseas, and they just spent it all. And so my dad
Not on
and
inventory. They just took the money and
they
spent
just
it.
took them, yeah, they just spent it. And so my dad and Mark had to figure out, make sure to pay for it, get this order, and then basically just kind of build it out of all kinds of things. Like they also weren't paying salespeople. They didn't pay any other employees. There were vendors who hadn't been paid. So, because we were selling boards, and so after took it over, obviously, but they weren't paying like the vendors who sold the wheels and the trucks and all that stuff. And so really, really kind of crazy. So basically my dad just dug it out of a hole. And
Was there
so,
just do you see massive opportunity in it?
yeah,
So
yeah,
he's
he
like,
saw a
okay,
lot of
this
opportunity in
kid's
it.
running in, he's just effing it up.
I think he
We're-
thought it was fun and too, like just learning a new
Okay.
business. And, once we started selling, it started, climbing and growing every single year. And then 2020, it just like we sold out of everything.
These are actual
Everything was gone.
boards, or these accessories, or what is it? A
They're
whole line?
boards, they're skateboards, like street decks and longboards. So
Okay.
yeah, they're made out of bamboo, so they're very flexible, and so they actually last a lot longer. So we've kind of gotten the construction down for the bamboo, and then there's longboards as well. So the street decks for skaters that do half pipes and all that, and then also longboards as well.
Do you skate yourself?
No, I'm actually a rollerblader.
Okay.
So I can do actually I can do ramps and everything like on rollerblades. Even still, I still rollerblade. But yeah, it's a cool business because there's all kinds of cool designs on the boards, and it's been really fun. Now that the market's kind of trending down because people are into the electric. So we've gotten a lot of people asking, hey, are you going to do electric? And we just really don't want the liability of it, and just hasn't been something we were interested in doing. We kind of looked into it, and we had some samples that we had like a full electric boards. But we were just like, I don't know.
I'm surprised you haven't gotten into it because you're super competitive. I can just see you in rollerboard derbies or something like that.
Yeah,
I mean, you're super. I mean, every time at a BDSS when we do the contest, I'm like, all right, what's Carrie going to be? She's going to be calling out somebody. She's going to be
It's
like
funny.
competitive, like
Yeah,
giving it her all and to try to win this thing no matter what. And if someone,
and we did win. I did win in Puerto Rico. Our team won those tug of war things against all the other guys, like all these big guys, and my kind of scrawny looking team. We beat everyone.
that's right. You had a strategy, like someone dug in, right? Whoever was on the end, like dug into the sand on the beach.
Yeah, so it was Jordan from Profitable Pineapple, and he basically was in the back, and he was like telling us when to pull, and we would just all pull at the same exact time. And so the other people were kind of pulling the whole time, and then they would lose their strength. So we were just like kind of pulling in increments, pull, and we won. It was really.
So you didn't get distracted by Leo without his shirt on?
I think everyone did. It's men and women. I think mentioned that.
That was so funny.
Yeah,
Cassandra was there.
That's what I remember most.
Cassandra
The
was
scene.
the social media person for Helium 10, so she was there taking pictures, and I
Yep.
just remember looking over at her. She wasn't participating; she was just taking pictures, and she had the biggest smile on her face. And she came up to me afterwards and said, "Kevin, I don't care if I die tomorrow. I've gone to heaven already. This has been the greatest event ever." There's
That's
Leo
funny.
over there without his shirt on.
And he's the nicest guy ever. So it's just so funny. Yeah. I saw men and women just kind of jaw dropped in that moment.
Yeah,
But
that's funny.
yeah.
When we did back when I was with Manny, we did before I started doing BDSS. Helium 10 actually had an event called Illuminati. Back Helium 10 Elite used to be called Illuminati, and we did two events. And the way it worked is we did the first one in 2017 in Cancun in May. That's where I met Norm. That's where I met Leo. That's where I met Janelle. Met a lot of people at that. But we had about 55 people, and we charged almost 10 grand.
Oh, wow.
But the way it worked is if you were an Illuminati member, it was 300, call it $400 a month. But every month you got X number of points. And so you could apply those points towards your ticket price to come to Cancun. So the price, if you just bought the ticket, was like 10 grand. But every month you were a member, is to keep you being a member, to keep you from canceling. You got, I forget what the number was, but I don't know, 400 points or something like that. So if you've been a member for a year, you basically could come for half price, get a $4,800 discount. It became a mess just to keep track of all that. We got rid of it. But we did that event in Cancun, and then we did another one in Kauai, actually at the Hyatt in 2018, January 2018. Then Helium 10 just started taking off like crazy, and Manny and Guy were like, we don't have time for nothing. We're just trying to grow this thing. It's just booming. So we quit doing it, and that's how when they stopped, so I was like, well, I want to keep doing this. Mark was helping me produce them, the Illuminati, and I was like, they're like, okay, you can do this, but you can only have 50 people at your BDSS because we're going to do this big event in Vegas, which didn't actually happen, Sail and Scale, until like several years later. But we don't want you competing against us. So you can have this small little thing with 50 people. And so that's how BDSS started in 2019. Is like that got put into my contract and that I could do that. Now it's 150 people. It's been raised and raised and raised.
Yeah.
But that's how that started. But I remember in Kauai in January, there was I can say this. I'm not saying anything bad. She's totally fine with it. But there's a friend of a seller at the time was openly gay. I mean, she's proud of it. So this is nothing. I'm not knocking anything, saying anything bad. But I remember Leo came on stage and she just sat in her chair just with her jaw open. I was like, Elena,
I guess he changed her.
what's going on? She's like, I don't care. I'll go straight for him. I could just sit here and watch him read the phone book.
That's
I
amazing.
don't know what he's saying. He's saying something about a bunch of scientific stuff about A9. I don't get it, but I don't care.
That's
It was
funny.
it was the funniest thing. So yeah,
Wow.
there's
I
a few
love that. That's so funny.
and so Leo, for those ladies listening, if you want to see one of the hottest guys in the space speak on stage, he's going to be in Iceland, April 4th to the 9th at the next BDSS speaking. So if you want to come and just, watch, and he's actually won before. So this is not just eye candy. This is actually a really smart guy that really knows how to do stuff.
Yeah.
So
I always learn so much from him. I've learned a lot from him over the years. So yeah.
you're dog sitting. It's back to your story. You're dog sitting, looking for something to do because you were a teacher before too, right? Didn't you teach?
Yeah. So I was a teacher in the early 2000s, basically when I graduated college, and I was a teacher for 5 years. And then I got kind of recruited from basically one of my students' moms, it's actually funny. When I was at Accelerate, I saw that student. She's working as an Amazon account manager now.
Really?
So she's like 24, 25. And so I saw her and it was really, really great. But I worked for her mom for like 5 years. And it was a skincare company, just doing sales mostly, like a lot of inside sales. But then I also would travel to different spas. Like her products were in like Ritz-Carltons and Waldorf Astoria. So I would travel to these locations and train people on how to sell the products and, just how to use them in general. So that they could, sell to clients, and also just training them on how to do like facials and stuff like that, which I'm not an esthetician, but I was like, I'll learn it. I'll figure it out. So I did all that for about 5 years. And then I was trying to kind of branch out, do more outside sales with Clear Channel. And I was kind of really hindered by them because they were there's only 118 billboards in San Diego. And so they were like, yeah, you can sell billboards here, and you can only sell to local people. But then there were all these national campaigns that took most of the billboards. So I was kind of left with a very small bit. And people, when I was reaching out to them, they were like, well, can you do digital? I don't want to spend 10 grand as a small business on a billboard, because there's no real proof of ROI. It's just kind of impressions of people driving along the road, whatever road it's at. So it was a really tough sell. And then I remember they came up with geofencing, which is probably a really great thing to use now even. But the geofencing,
I did Accelerate.
Oh, you did? Yeah. Geofencing is the coolest thing ever. And so they came out with geofencing, and I was like, I can sell this with like no problem at all. I was just like making my list, and she was like, oh no, you can't sell geofencing unless you sell it with a billboard. And so I was like, okay, well, that's not going to work. Whereas, I mean, I was seeing dollar signs. I was like, yes, I can sell this to anyone. You could sell it to, even as just like thinking as a teacher, the tutoring places, you could do geofencing around schools and advertising for tutoring, anything. You could do whatever you want, any kind of service, wherever your target market might hang out most, you could advertise. So I basically quit that, and I was that kind of like at a loss and trying to figure out what else to do. And that's when the whole situation happened with, my dad taking over the company. And I was like, well, I can figure this out. $200 a month on Amazon, I would sell that, in an hour if, just doing inside sales, maybe less than an hour. I would sell it just no problem, right? And so I was just like, that's so funny that they can't even sell more than $200 a month. And so I just learned it all on YouTube. So YouTube University is where I know I learned everything, basically.
So real quick, step back on geofencing. So we passed over that, but some of you listening may not know what the heck, which is like, geofencing, what are you talking about? What geofencing is it uses your basically the same functionality that your map uses on your phone to know where you are, to guide you through the satellites. You can actually put up a perimeter through around a building or around a location, like anybody that passes by a billboard, anybody that goes to a Dunkin' Donuts, and you go on a map online. There's some that you gotta pay a lot of money, and there's some that are self-service, and you just draw a map. I did it at Accelerate in Seattle, so we had 3,000 Amazon sellers. I was like, this is my perfect audience to sell something to. So I actually went online, paid a service, and I did like $50 a day as a test. I was testing it. And then I drew a little red box around the little convention center, and any phone that passes through that gets picked up. And I don't know who you are. I don't know this is Carrie Miller just passing through, but it knows your mid or all the IMEI, whatever the phone that anonymous data is. And then it basically it's kind of like a pixel. It pixels you, and then I can start serving you ads for a long period for whatever I want. So anybody that passes through, it's going to pick up everybody. It's going to pick up the janitor. It's going to pick up anybody that passes through. But you're getting a very highly targeted group of people, and you target them with ads, and these ads show up on if they go to Drudge or they go to CNN or they go to Good Morning America or wherever banner ads show up.
Yep.
And you can also put them on YouTube as pre-rolls if this person happens to be watching during lunch or something, watching the YouTube, and you can do all kinds of cool stuff with it. It's not the cheapest way of advertising. The cost per lead can be kind of high, but it can be extremely targeted and effective. And then I was like, okay, this is cool for 3 days of Accelerate, but I want to keep targeting these guys for like another week. How can I do that? Does it create like an audience? And they're like, no, it's only like those 3 days that you're advertising. They said what to do is just take that little red box where you drew it around the convention center and draw it around like a single post in the convention center, like just a tiny little like 1 by 1 foot by 1 foot area. And maybe something will pass through there occasionally, but you don't care. But that way they'll keep running to that other audience that you've built over 3 days. So it's pretty cool technology. And a lot of people do that for targeting. Competitors will target their competitors, and it can be effective, or at least for general brand awareness.
Yeah, it wasn't that expensive in 2015. I'm sure it went up over time, but do you remember how much it costs per lead?
Well, yeah, I was doing newsletter signups. It was costing me about $8.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty expensive. Yeah.
So, and my normal cost on a Facebook ad right now is about $278. But
yeah,
I could probably refine that. It could be the ads I was using if I wanted to dive deeper and do some testing. Because like when I started doing Facebook ads, it was like $5.50 a lead, and now I'm at $2.78 because we've refined it. Could probably do the same thing with the geo targeting.
Yeah, I mean, you could do it for all kinds of different products too. Like say you were just like in doing like a kayak something, selling a kayak or outdoor things, you can just kind of geofence an area where people are doing that. Like in San Diego, there's like the whole beach area. You could, say, hey, I'm selling kayaks or whatever it is. You can kind of advertise them. You can do it with products too.
I thought about doing like at a college football stadium. You got all these young kids trying to sneak alcohol in little flasks and stuff. And there's people that sell the, fake shampoo bottles and fake whatever on Amazon. And I was like, you should just target a freaking 100,000 student game, one of these big Southeastern Conference games or something. And you could probably generate some sales by targeting one of those stadiums.
I would think
there's
so.
all kinds of cool stuff you can do. I actually cover this in the $1 Billion Sellers newsletter. I talked about what I did at Amazon Accelerate back in September. So if you check out one of the past issues of that, you can see that.
Yeah.
So you started helping your dad with the skateboard stuff, and around the same time, you actually worked for Helium 10's top competitor for a little while too, right?
Well, no, I actually was a freelancer. I worked for FreeUp. If you remember the FreeUp.
For Nathan? Okay.
Yeah. And I was one of the, I think I was one of the first ones. I'm not really sure. But so basically we would be on Skype and, jobs would kind of drop into Skype channels and I would just grab them and I would optimize listings for people. So I was writing and using Helium 10 keyword research to do the optimization and Scribbles as well. I don't know if it was called Scribbles then, but Frankenstein Scribbles, like I would do deep.
Yeah, it's Frankenstein Scribbles were the first, that's the first names of them. Yeah.
So I would deduplicate the keywords and make sure I had all the single words in there. Also make sure I wrote in the phrases and the title and the bullets and everything. So I was definitely, I was doing a really thorough job of keyword research and I did pretty well with that. And so I kept getting more and more jobs. And so I was kind of upping my price over time. For me though, it was kind of difficult because it was very isolating. I was just always writing by myself, just writing. I'm an extrovert. So it was kind of like draining to me, to be honest. But I definitely used my sales kind of mindset to be able to write those listings. And I think that was kind of gave me like a leg up because it's not just, writing copy. It's, what are the benefits of this product for people? Why would anyone want to buy this? And you have to really kind of push what it is that people would want to buy this product for. And you keep refining it as well, looking at reviews and all that stuff. So, and I worked for some agencies too that were working, optimizing big brands. Like I did a lot of Arm & Hammer, a lot of big pet brands. And I optimized their stuff and they actually just said, hey, you can use our Helium 10, subscriptions, I guess you could say. Then it was like, you could only use a certain number of times every month. It was like, you can use Cerebro, however many times based on your plan. And so the count would go down. But yeah, I used all of that. And I remember one guy I was doing, he was selling like 2 million a month on Amazon on lights and lighting. And he was like, I'll pay you $5,000 if you just tell me your strategy. Cause he just didn't want to pay me anymore. Cause I was getting paid like $50 an hour and he had tons of listings. And so, he was trying to pay me and I didn't give my secret, but literally the secret was Helium 10 using the tools. And honestly, the tools we have now are even better. We have a listing builder AI and it kind of analyzes your listing based on, how your competitors do and just all the keywords that you utilize. So it's more robust. And so if anyone hasn't checked out the listing builder AI, it's amazing. And you can definitely really, kind of like we had a freedom ticket, person the other day, Daniela, she was talking about kind of giving yourself scores and adding all these keywords in there. Like we basically have a lot of that stuff in our listing builder AI, which is really cool. Yeah. But I was just optimizing listings and sitting alone doing that. And sorry, what?
When did you start working for Helium 10?
2021. So I basically helped build the Jungles Market, which is the freelancer site. So because I had such, I had been, doing freelancing work for such a long time. So I basically was hired just for customer service. And I really did it because I was like kind of just wanting interaction. And so I built it by just kind of, and I really was only supposed to be customer service, but I was basically like putting ads in all the Indeeds, like every city. I was looking for actual freelancers to build that part. And then also marketing just to actual sellers, that we have these services and stuff. And so, I did that. And then they're like, oh, you know a lot about Amazon. So, then I kind of moved into a different team and did their academy stuff that's on the Jungle Scout thing. And then I quit there about like, I think 2020 maybe? I don't remember. And I was working on my business with my dad. I was like, I really don't want to work for anyone else. And then Bradley reached out to me and I was like, oh, I guess I could. Because it was going back to like me being lonely again, So it was like...
Well, Bradley's the one that hooked you into Helium 10.
He did, yeah. I think it was the same kind of idea. I was in the groups, like, answering questions and things like that. But he said he saw me also on YouTube on Jungle Scout. So he was like, oh yeah, let's just have a chat. And I was like, well, can't hurt to have a chat. And I always have been a huge fan of Helium 10. And I was using Helium 10 while I was at Jungle Scout because Jungle Scout is very basic. So they basically had an extension, and that's where they kind of started. And it didn't really go much beyond that in terms of like innovation and things like that. They've got a few things, but Helium 10 has really been the leader and the innovator in the space. I really don't think any other tools compare.
It should be called like Helium 30 or something now, right? Not Helium 10.
Yeah, and I just love the tools coming out too. Like there's the historical trend is my favorite tool, and we're coming out with a monthly comparison where you can do more than 1 month of historical data, and so you can just get all this data for more than just 1 month at a time, and just start seeing where you're lacking in keywords, where you're kind of falling off, like where you were ranking, and then all of a sudden you fell off. You can kind of see it in a 3-month period now, and it's just I love the tools that we have. So yeah, there's so much that you can do with Helium 10. It's just amazing.
And hopefully I'll see you on December 12th on the webinar I'm doing, totally free webinar. You can find out more information by getting my newsletter at billiondollarsellers.com. It's a totally free newsletter. All the details about the webinar will be on there. You don't want to miss this webinar. It's going to be something that will get you thinking. It's going to be awesome. I think the latest stats from last year that I saw was Amazon did about $750 billion. That's third-party sellers plus what they're doing on their 1P. So you might look at their balance sheet. It says we took in $492 million, but if you add in the sales that actually the third party, because Amazon only reports their revenue part of that, they don't report the total gross of that. So when you add in that total gross, it's like 750. Walmart was like 100 billion. So it's an eighth of the size basically of Amazon. And TikTok Shop was like 20 billion. This was last year, 2023.
Yeah.
So I'm sure in 2024, those numbers have shifted some. Amazon's probably even got more of a lead, if I had to guess. But TikTok has probably come up. But TikTok's total, if you put that in perspective, TikTok's total sales for 2023 were a Black Friday, Cyber Day weekend for Amazon. And that's puts it in the scale in perspective. But the opportunities on TikTok, like you said, are huge right now. Is Helium 10 planning on doing any kind of TikTok tools or anything?
Yes, we are in the works.
It's in the works?
Yep. And, we'll obviously always have content that goes with it. We already have a lot of great TikTok content, even on the AMPM podcast too. We've had some people talking about TikTok Shop. So we'll have, even more content and teach people how to do it. And so I think there's definitely some good things coming. So yeah, I think that's a good opportunity. And I kind of like to push people where the sales are. So you might as well.
What do you think about the people that say, what do you think is going to happen with this government thing and the people that say, nah, you're wasting your time getting on TikTok. It's not going to be around very much longer.
I think it's going to be around. I think they're going to work it out.
I do too.
I think that's just, it's too much money. Our country doesn't want to lose that, and neither does China. So they'll work it out.
I think if it gets nasty, I think someone will end up buying it. Bezos might even buy it, or Microsoft might buy it, but or Oracle, someone is going to buy it. But the Chinese are saying, well, if they buy it, the algorithm doesn't come with it because that's our secret sauce.
That's the secret sauce. And you know what? It's really interesting because it's a lot more free too than other, like things don't get taken down as easily as they do on like Instagram.
There's stories that actually will argue differently from you with that. There's some things that there's someone was just telling me yesterday that they watched a documentary on TikTok and they're showing how the Chinese government manipulates everything that's on there. So if you go and try to post a video about Tiananmen Square, the big tank and stuff, they censor that, and they censor a lot of stuff, but things that they don't want to censor that cause strife or unrest or arguments among the American population, they actually keep it on there because it's a disruptor, and they actually want that to keep there. They want those opposing venues so that the argument of the show was that China is using this as a weapon to actually weaponize social media so that you have these factions of people that, you have the Trump people and the Kamala people, and they don't like each other. And when Trump wins, all the Kamala people cry. And Harvard University says cancel classes because people can't just take it the next day after the election, which Harvard actually did. And so that's what they're actually after, is actually creating that kind of polarization. with the hopes that eventually long term, this is a long term play over 5, 10, 15, 20 years, this fractures and weakens the United States. So that's the argument against it, because the algorithm is so powerful to do that.
They probably own our media companies then too, because the polarization there is pretty insane. I think that there's a lot more than just TikTok, and my algorithm is a little different because it's like I'm really into health stuff. So I'm into like, I learned about, like I told you about black seed oil. I figured out black seed oil and just a lot of health stuff. So the algorithm is so good. It's like, it's pushing what you want to see. So if people are kind of really into the political scene, they're going to get a lot more.
I always say, if you want to know someone's personality, like, I recently got divorced. And so I'm like, next person I date, I joke about this. I'm like, I'm going to say, if I'm serious about it, I'm like, can I see your phone? Like, why? It's like, I just want to scroll your TikTok for a few minutes and I'll learn everything I need to know about you.
Exactly. Yeah. But I will say, I do agree that it's very manipulative with the emotions, and the polarization is pretty bad. So hopefully we can figure that out in the next, I don't know, however long, 10 years.
How much have you bought off a TikTok shop?
I've only bought one thing and I was disappointed. So I'm one of those people that will find it on Amazon. So people are always like, oh, what about Amazon? I think that it always lifts up Amazon sales because I trust Amazon way more. Like, for example, I basically got this, like, it was like a natural essential oil, like oil thing. And it was like for hair and nails and all that stuff. And it came from China, and it was supposed to have all these essential oils, and it did not have the smell of those essential oils. It was just like some weird, I just threw it in the trash. And I was like, I don't know how to return this. I don't know how to deal with it. So I just basically just was like, I'm throwing it in the trash. And I think they've kind of cracked down on shipping directly from China, because you have to do 2-day shipping.
Yeah.
But I was just like, you know what? I don't trust this. And so I'll find it. Like, there was a mop that I saw that's like a spin mop, and I was like, I need a mop. So I found the exact one on Amazon, and you just look the brand name, it's the brand name's on there. I just look at the brand name and I just go straight to Amazon and find it there and buy it there. So I think I've purchased quite a few things that I've learned about on TikTok on Amazon.
Yeah, I have too. And I had enough purchased on TikTok shop because it's just so easy. Just boom, boom, and you're done, and you continue watching videos of cats do somersaults.
Yeah. I'm more skeptical though, because I know like e-commerce, and I just don't feel like it's there yet. So I was like, Amazon's got it down. So
what do you think is going to happen with Temu and Amazon's knockoff, their attempt to compete against Temu? I know you cover this because you sometimes do the
I did cover
Helium
that.
10
Yeah.
Buzz. You cover some of the stuff when you do the weekly Helium 10 Buzz and stuff. What do
You
think?
mean how they're going to do? Because
Yeah, how do you think Temu's going to do, and then how do you think Amazon's going to do with this new low-price Temu competitor store?
So Amazon with the Temu competitor, I think that's pretty. I think I was a little frustrated because they should allow U.S. sellers to be able to do the same thing if they're going to allow Chinese sellers to do it, because we can do the same thing, drop shipping from China as well. And so I wonder if they're going to open it up to everyone, or if they're just testing it with the Chinese sellers. I'm not sure. But with Temu, they're kind of wanting everything to be in the US. So I feel like they're maybe kind of going towards more quality and that kind of thing, but I'm not really sure. I just think that because they want to sell products that are here already in the US, that they might be looking more for kind of the US sellers for kind of more profitability that way, just kind of that customer service, addition there. I don't know how many returns they get, but I know that people say the quality for overall hasn't been very good. And some people are like, oh, I don't care about the quality, it's fine. So I'm not really sure where it'll go. I personally don't buy on Temu because I don't like to buy just junk stuff. And so that's, I don't know how many people feel that way. And maybe they realize that and they're like, okay, well, we want US sellers on there, because I know you sent stuff out that they're trying to recruit US sellers, because we can really control the quality, because we might have the same product coming from China, but the US seller is going to insist on the quality. Like for us, we insist on the quality. I've gone back, even with the same product that we launched in 2018. I'm going back and saying this pre-production sample is off. You need to make sure to make these changes, and will not accept them to start production until we get the exact thing. And then we also have inspections as well. So there's that level of quality that comes from the US sellers that is not there with the Chinese sellers. So
someone at Temu, I don't know if this is true or not, but someone at Temu, one of the business development guys, told me they don't care about the Chinese sellers. Like, what are you talking about? You don't care about? That's like your core of your business. That we use them. We use them to get market share, to do all this cheap, cruddy products, and to get stuff in, to get known, to get market share. And our goal now is to do exactly what you just said, is to flip it to U.S.-based sellers, where it's better
sense.
quality. And so that was what he said. It was a deliberate play against the Chinese.
Okay.
I'm not saying they're not going to continue doing Chinese sellers, but they said that was just a stepping stone.
Yeah.
And we don't care as much about them as we do actually getting quality U.S. sellers that'll sell higher ticket items and not just
Yeah.
the junk.
Yeah, that makes sense to me because, if you want people to order over and over like they do on Amazon, you don't want junk. Because I order from Amazon because I get pretty good quality stuff most of the time, And if I don't get a good quality, I'm going to return it. So they're probably feeling that same thing is like, oh, we could sell all this junk, but we're not going to be profitable long term because that's not what people want.
You said you don't get junk on Amazon, but there's a lot of junk on Amazon. So I think it may be because you're a seller and the other side of these listings and you look at listings. I think us as sellers look at listings in a different way than the average person. We look at it and go, that's crap. I'm not ordering that. Or this is a black hat, blah, 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 blah. I'm not ordering that. I think as a seller, once you're in this game, you actually shop differently on Amazon.
Yeah. I also look at the reviews to see if a ton of them just appeared all at the same time. And, just random strategies like that. But yeah, I look at the copy and see how it's written and everything.
Yeah, well, I think we shop differently. So that's why you're not getting junk.
Yeah.
Because you know how to filter it properly from the other side.
That's true. Yeah. So I think that's a good idea on Temu's part to go more quality. I actually like the idea of going back to what it was like 50 years ago where we would buy, I wasn't around 50 years ago, but like anyone would buy something and it would last. Like I remember my dad had a cooler that was like 50 years old or something. It was like so old, but it was still working super well. Just things didn't just break after 3 or 4 years or 2 years or 1 year. You buy a TV every 4 years, it's pretty much you got to replace it and things like that. So that would be a cool step in the right direction if we kind of had these higher quality products that lasted a long time. Obviously not for reorder rates, but
what do you think is going to happen if Trump, some of the stuff that now he's going to be president, some of the stuff he was saying he's going to do, if he actually follows through on it and does 60% tariffs and 25% tariffs on Mexico and 10 to 20% on the rest of the world and all this kind of stuff. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's going to encourage a lot more manufacturing in the U.S., which is a cool thing too, especially, think about the car industry. I 100% don't want my car to be manufactured in China or anywhere else. I want it in Detroit, Michigan. I want the high quality standards. That's the kind of thing that I want to. And so I think that, they were going to build a bunch of plants in Mexico and they were like, well, I guess we're not going to do that now. So they're, keeping that industry in the US. I think that it will bring back a lot of industry. And we actually were already thinking about how we can manufacture our products here as well. And so there's that piece to it. But in terms of, the actual taxes, it's not going to be on the retail price, but usually it kind of just gets passed on.
Well, yeah, if it's a $5 landing cost and it's a 60% tariff, there's already a 25% tariff that most people don't realize. And there may be a duty on top of that. So it could be another 2 to 20% or something on average, but let's just call it 5%. So that there's a 30% on average that's being added now. So if it's a $5 cost from the factory, already we're at $1.50. So if we add 60%, it's going to take it from $1.50 to $3.
I don't know that he said he was going to raise it that much. I think it has to do with negotiation.
Yeah, he said as high as 60%.
I think it depends on the country. Like,
that China is 60%.
China, he said specifically 60%.
China specifically is 60%, and then there's other countries are 10 to 20%, depending on the country, and then Mexico's 25%.
Yeah. I think he's playing the game of like, hey, you guys are, taking advantage of our exports to your country and charging the taxes.
That's a negotiation thing. I don't think it's going to actually get. There could be some changes. I think you should expect some changes, but Trump is the type. It's just like when he was elected the first time. He's like, we're going to build a wall to keep the Latin Americans out, and Mexico's going to pay for it. And people made fun of him, but that was just negotiation. That's an outlandish thing, just to establish a frame of reference, and then you negotiate off of that, and then it makes it look like the final negotiation is a much better deal. Where maybe they weren't going to pay anything, and we were going to have to build it all out of our taxpayer money. And because he said that, and because he played the game, they're like, maybe we should help out here. And so in the end, they pitch in $100 million or something.
I think people forget that he wrote The Art of the Deal.
Yeah, that's part, exactly. So that's whether we're not trying to make this a political talk podcast, but whether you like Trump or dislike him, the guy has a lot of personality things, and you can make a case that he's a total asshole. But from a business point of view and from what's good, there's a lot of good things, and he gets panned a lot for some of the crazy stuff he says, but a lot of that's very deliberate. And it's to actually get the result that we actually want in the end.
Yeah.
And but it comes across as this guy's crazy and lunatic, and who is this? And if you go back and read some of his, like you just said, The Art of the Deal, this was 30 years ago that I read them when they came out.
That's what my dad read.
And I read his books back then. This is before there's any political stuff or any of this other stuff going on. It was smart business. And, and back when he ran the first time, well, this guy, he's had X number of bankruptcies, and he has this and that. So you're going to have this guy lead our country, and he's done bankruptcy. Like, yeah, that's actually smart business, the way he did it. And there's just a lot of misconceptions there. Whether you like the guy or not like the guy, that's okay. You don't like his morals or you don't like his personality, but he gets stuff done. And as a business person, I like people that get stuff done.
Me too.
As a business person, but I don't like paying a 25% tariff on my goods. But that gets passed on, and that's just part of the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just kind of standing up for our country, and it's kind of all working together. As a whole, we need to be respected and not taken advantage of, and everyone else, if they're going to tax us, we're going to tax the imports. So that's just kind of the way it works. But I kind of hope we bring some manufacturing back to the US to get higher quality products overall that last a long time. Because I think a lot of those American companies have kind of moved out to China, and even Apple, they're all manufactured in China. If we could manufacture more here, I think that we could have higher quality products that last longer. And it's funny because I'm a millennial, and people are always like, oh, the millennials, they're not as, successful as the boomers or this, that. I'm like, yeah, but the millennials have to literally pay for stuff all the time that breaks. Like, we have to keep buying stuff that maybe my dad, we inherited
that's part
a TV.
Of the business model, though. That's the business model, is they don't want the stuff to last. They want it to break. So you got to keep, it's a recurring revenue.
It's a recurring revenue, but if we start manufacturing in the US, you'll get some quality stuff. We can export it worldwide, and it's better for everyone. But I just think it's so funny because I'm like, yeah, we have to literally buy stuff over and over and over again. When our parents didn't, we inherited our TV from our grandma, and we had it for like 10 or 15 years after that. Like, it never.
You still have one of those big box TVs that takes up half the wall?
We did until like the early 2000s.
Yeah.
So it was sitting on the ground, and it had like a built wooden thing around it. It was like,
It had a string for the remote control, like that you had to stretch across the living room.
Well, we actually had a remote too, but
but the remotes had a string. They weren't infrared.
Did. Yeah. So I mean, I think that could be a really good thing. It's just those high quality products that manufactured, made in the USA. I like that idea. Maybe it's just a dream, but I like the idea of not buying things over and over again. I like the idea of innovation and quality products. And that's kind of where I'm at. But I'm hopeful and excited for the future. I think that the future is bright. I think there's a lot of good things on the horizon.
What do you think about the importance of, like you said that you watched YouTube videos in the beginning, and then you kind of got lonely, and that's why you started doing some consulting, and that's why you did some stuff with Jungle Scout, and that's why when Bradley called you came to Helium 10, because you're kind of just like, okay, I need to have some social PlayStation. I'm an extrovert. What is it about events that you think is so important, and being part of a group like Helium 10 Elite, or you go to some events, you go to some of my events, you go to some other events in the industry. What do you think about the importance of doing that kind of stuff is?
I think there's something, I feel like there's something like psychologically about it. It's just, it energizes you to get around people that are, in the same kind of thing, doing the same thing as you, and you can relate to the people a lot better. But, for example, Elite, we meet every week, either on the roundtable with you, or we have an Elite networking call, and everyone is able to kind of relate to each other on a different level. If I try to talk about this with other friends, they're like, yeah, Carrie, like they just like glaze over, but these are kind of your people where you can get energized, you can get ideas from them. They can help you with issues. And when you go to conferences, you're learning more, and you're networking, and you're building a group of people that you can learn from, and they can learn from you, and you can kind of share ideas and kind of grow all together. But there's an energy that comes and you're kind of revived and refreshed when even though you might be tired, you're excited about new ideas. Whereas if you're by yourself, you kind of just get into this mundane, like tired feeling, and you kind of lose energy, you lose momentum. And I think it's really, really good to get around people. It's just like even at Helium 10, like I'm going into the office next week. And whenever I go to the office, I am always re-energized and more excited about the things that we're doing with Helium 10 too, after going in and being around everybody in person. So there is just something really special about being in person. I think we're meant to be, like, I think physiologically we're just meant to be around people, and being around like-minded people is an amazing thing. So I don't recommend just, wearing yourself out and going to tons and tons of events, but finding the few that, that are going to be good and high quality events and focusing on those.
A lot of people say when they go to these events, they come back with all these ideas. And then what happens is a lot of times they end up implementing zero. They learn all this cool stuff and like, that's cool, I need to do that. But there's so much, they get overwhelmed. They're like, there's 10 different things I just learned at this Helium 10 Elite quarterly webinar or this BDSS event or whatever. And they end up doing none of them versus they should just pick one or two of them and like implement those right away. Do you have any advice for what you do when you come to like a BDSS event or when you go to an event and you pick up something?
So it's funny because I was talking to Janelle Page about this, and she basically said she wasn't allowed to go to another event unless she implemented one thing that she learned from the last event. And I thought that was a good rule. Like, you have to at least implement one thing from that event before, or you can't, you can't go. So I think that's probably the biggest thing, is like finding at least one thing and just not allowing yourself to just keep going to conferences and just wasting.
Now, you've been to, how many BDSSs have you been to? 4?
Yeah, I think so.
4,
Yeah.
but you haven't been to the Market Masters think tank yet.
No.
Yeah, that one, we'll have to get you out in February. You have to be the Helium 10 representative or
I would
something.
love that.
At that one, I think it conflicted with Accelerate or something this last time. The next one's in February 20th to 24th. So you should come out and be an expert on that.
I would love that. Yeah.
And I think this event is, BDSS, so you know how we do those, but this was a 10 out of 10 by everybody.
Nice.
At this event. And it was, at one point after it got over, I was like, holy maybe I should just do these and quit doing BDSS.
Really?
Because it's that impactful. And not only on the 12 people that sat in the think tanks that paid to be there and to get this advice, but the experts. Because I was a little afraid because I had 12 sessions and each session had 6 to 7 experts on it. So basically the people that paid to be there, they would tell me, these are my pain points. I need to know X, Y, and Z. And then I would go find experts that could help them with that. Maybe they said, I want to launch on TikTok Shop. So I made sure Michelle Barnum-Smith's there and Janelle's there or whatever. And then maybe they said one of their others, I'm looking to exit my business. All right, Scott Dietz, you need to be there. And so on. And so I curated it. And that's like, these guys are donating their time. They charge a lot of money for consulting to do this. Yeah, I'm paying to put them up and feed them, but they're flying themselves there. I don't pay for airfare. So they're getting themselves there. I can't tell them they got to work the whole weekend. And there's 4 of these a day and they last 2.5 hours each. And I can't say, but so I was divvying it up, like people getting 2 or 3 and the rest of the time they can just hang out, chill, take advantage of the mansion, play pickleball, go in the pool, go hang out, do whatever. It's a cool place to do. So you're not going to get bored. But by the end of it, we didn't have 6 or 7 experts on a panel. We had 9 or 10. Because everybody's like, put me on another one. Put me on another one. I'm like,
that's great. Sure?
Put me on another one. Because I'm learning as much by being an expert and contributing as the person sitting in the chair because of other people talking around the table. And the time flew fast because everybody's there at least for us, people like me and you, we're talking about what we love to talk about. So you look up and like, shoot, where'd the 2 hours go? That was too much fun.
Yeah.
So I would love to have you at that one.
Yes.
And as an expert.
I'll put it on my calendar. So I will.
Yeah. I think you'll really, knowing you, I think you'll really enjoy it.
I do. I'm usually in the front row at BDSS.
Yeah.
Always listening to everything that's going on. Definitely have learned a lot over the years. So. And
you're trying to get your dad to come to Iceland, right?
Yeah. I don't know if it's going to happen, but we're working on it.
Well, you're coming though, right?
That's the plan. Yeah. That's for me. So I'm hoping to anyway. That's what I think.
That's in April 4th to the 9th. And then doing Elevate 360 this year, which
I want to do that too. Yeah.
I have the #1 Google guy in the world speaking.
Amazing.
And I have the guy who made Mr. Beast famous, who actually was behind his whole YouTube strategy.
That guy's crazy.
He's speaking.
Isn't Mr. Beast in jail or something?
He's getting into some trouble right now.
Yeah.
But I'm not worried about that size. This is the guy that actually knew
He's the marketing genius behind it.
Marketing genius on the YouTube algorithm.
Amazing.
And so he's going to be speaking, and there's a bunch of other really cool stuff. So it's going to be from level up last year. This is going to be like even. I'm excited. It's like it's another level up.
That's really good. Yeah, I was one of the original level up people.
Yeah, you're the guinea pig. You're in the guinea pig group of level up to see, and we learned some stuff like, okay, this worked really good, but we need to do this and we need to change this. So we're making those changes on that. And that event's going to get spun out eventually, not tagged onto BDSS. It is now to help it grow. But at some point, that's going to be its own standalone event. And it'll appeal to more than just Amazon people. It'll appeal to the entire e-com industry.
I liked it because it was a small group, though, because you really got to know people better. That I've seen, there are some people that I've seen at industry events like Athena, but I never really got to know her. But I got to know her at that event a lot better. Just had time to kind of sit down with some of these people that are always, they're usually busy doing other things. So it was really cool.
Shoot, I'm looking up here. This has been too much fun. We're already past an hour. Bradley's going to kill me. He's going to be like, Kevin, quit making them so long. I'm like, yeah, but they're cool. What are you going to tell Carrie you're going to cut on this? You go tell Carrie you're going to cut on this. It's all good. So
funny.
If people want to know more about Miss Carrie Miller, I guess they should just follow you at Helium 10 on LinkedIn, or follow you, or anything you want to tell everybody to go check out, something coming up on Helium 10 or something that they need to make sure they do.
Yeah, I mean,
webinars or trainings or tools coming out or anything?
Well, obviously the Freedom Ticket webinars that you and I have been doing are amazing. Like with Daniela this last week was just amazing. She talked about listing optimization and just things that people haven't always talked about in some of the things that I've, been listening to. And so I think she brought a new perspective. But every month we have the Freedom Ticket webinars. And I think that's a good place to go. We do have occasional other types of webinars, but we are coming out with new tools all the time. And like I said, our historical trend tool that I think Abe Chamali said it's the literal, like the main reason he likes to use Helium 10 is our historical trend tool. And we're expanding on that and making it even better. And that's coming out in a few weeks. We are, our listing builder AI, I don't think has gotten the attention that I think it deserves. It's incredible. And if you are a big data person and you haven't ever tried Market Tracker 360 to kind of look at your overall market and trends, it's an amazing tool. So, I mean, there's a lot of things continually coming. And I think just keep in touch with us if you haven't signed up, with our email list and things like that. You want to do that. But LinkedIn is a great way to follow me. I'll try to. I was posting for a little while and then I kind of fell off, but I'm going to start posting again more content of things that specifically Helium 10 and ways that it can help you, because Helium 10 is the biggest way that I've been able to grow over the years. And it's the way I helped tons of brands to optimize their listings. It's definitely the best tool to really help you get out there. I don't know how anyone does it without, those tools, but so yeah, I'll continue to post content on LinkedIn. So just search Carrie Miller, Helium 10, Carrie Miller, Helium 10, and you should find me on LinkedIn and you can just connect with me there and message me if you want to.
Thank you so much, Carrie, for joining me today and chit-chatting.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, talk to you later.
Always a pleasure speaking with Carrie from Helium 10. If you want to check out the Freedom Ticket, you can go to freedomticket.com. Or if you want to check out Helium 10 Elite, you can go to h10.me/elite. And you can join us for like the monthly webinar that she talked about on Freedom Tickets, totally free. Or you can join us at Helium 10 Elite, where I do training every single month. I do a 2-hour mastermind session. Carrie jumps on every month as well, and Shabali and Bradley. So be sure to check those out. And check out the latest stuff in Helium 10, like the new AI optimized listing tool. Sounds really, really cool. So I recommend you go and check that out if you haven't checked that out yet. We'll be back again next week with another awesome episode of the AM/PM podcast. I've got some parting words of wisdom for you. As Zig Ziglar famously said, if you help other people get what they want, you'll get what you need. If you help other people get what they want, you'll get what you need. Take care. And we'll talk to you next week.